Calm is power. The Stoic secret that makes you unstoppable, Part 1. Have you ever noticed that the strongest person in the room is often the quietest? Not because they have nothing to say, but because they have mastered something most people never will: the power to remain calm. Today, I want to tell you a story. Not about a king, not about a warrior, but about an ordinary young man whose life changed forever because he discovered one simple Stoic principle. Calm is power. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe to the channel. If you're ready to build mental strength, emotional control, and the mindset of the great Stoics, you're in the right place. Let's begin. A long time ago, in a small village surrounded by mountains, lived a young man named Elias. He dreamed of becoming someone respected. He worked hard. He studied. He trained every day. Yet no matter what he did, life seemed to test him. One morning he lost his job. The next week, a close friend betrayed him. Soon after, his savings disappeared because of a business mistake. Everything he had worked for seemed to collapse. People around him laughed. "You'll never succeed. You should give up. Life isn't fair." Every word cut deeply into his heart. Each night he lay awake replaying those voices in his mind. He became angry. He argued with strangers. He shouted at his family. He blamed luck, society, and everyone around him. The more he reacted, the worse his life became. One afternoon, while wandering through the forest, Elias met an old man sitting quietly beneath a large tree. The old man looked peaceful. Birds rested nearby without fear. The wind moved gently through the leaves, but nothing disturbed him. Curious, Elias asked, "How can you remain so calm when life is full of suffering?" The old man smiled. Instead of answering, he handed Elias a cup filled to the very top with water. "Carry this cup to the top of the mountain," he said. "But be careful. If even one drop spills, you must begin again." Elias accepted the challenge. Slowly, carefully, he climbed. People shouted. Children laughed. Dogs barked. The wind pushed against him. Yet he kept his eyes on the cup. When he finally reached the summit, not a single drop had spilled. The old man appeared beside him and asked, "Did you notice the people yelling?" "No." "Did you hear the dogs barking?" "No." "Did you see the beautiful flowers?" "No." "Why not?" Elias answered, "I was focused on protecting the water." The old man smiled again. "Exactly. Your mind becomes powerful when it focuses only on what truly matters." He continued, "The world will always make noise. People will criticize you. Life will test you. But your strength is measured by your ability to remain calm while everything around you is in chaos." Those words changed Elias forever. From that day forward, he stopped reacting to every insult. He stopped arguing with people who wanted conflict. He stopped chasing approval. Instead, he focused on becoming better every single day. When someone mocked him, he smiled. When problems appeared, he searched for solutions instead of excuses. When failure arrived, he treated it as a lesson. Slowly, something incredible happened. His confidence returned. His discipline grew stronger. Opportunities appeared. The same people who once laughed at him now admired his calmness. They asked, "What's your secret?" Elias simply replied, "I stopped giving my peace away." This is exactly what Marcus Aurelius practiced every day. He ruled an empire filled with wars, betrayals, and crises. Yet he reminded himself that external events do not control the mind unless we allow them to. That lesson is just as powerful today. Every day, social media tries to steal your attention. Negative people try to steal your peace. Unexpected problems try to steal your confidence. But remember this: your calmness is your greatest strength. When you stay calm, you think clearly. When you think clearly, you make better decisions. And better decisions create a better life. So the next time someone insults you, pause. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, will this matter 1 year from now? Most of the time, the answer is no. Protect your peace. Protect your mind. Because calm is not weakness. Calm is power. End of part 1. In part 2, Elias faces his greatest challenge yet, a betrayal that tests everything he has learned. You'll discover how the Stoic mindset can turn pain into strength and transform ordinary people into unshakable leaders. Calm is power. Part 2, the storm that revealed true strength. The morning after Elias left the mountain, something inside him had changed. The world looked exactly the same. The streets were still crowded. People were still impatient. The market was still filled with noise. But Elias was no longer the same man. For the first time in years, he walked without carrying the weight of everyone else's opinions. He remembered the old man's words. Your mind becomes powerful when it focuses only on what truly matters. Those words echoed in his heart every morning. Instead of waking up and checking what others were doing, Elias began waking before sunrise. While the village was still asleep, he sat in silence. He listened to the wind. He watched the first rays of sunlight touch the mountains. He breathed slowly. His mind became clearer each day. Then he trained his body. He read books. He practiced his craft. He stopped wasting time arguing with people who wanted to pull him down. Weeks turned into months. Little by little, people noticed something unusual. Whenever chaos erupted around Elias, he remained calm. When business owners argued in the marketplace, Elias quietly continued his work. When neighbors spread gossip, he simply smiled and walked away. Some called him strange. Others thought he was weak. But they misunderstood him. Remaining calm is not weakness. It is one of the greatest forms of strength. One afternoon, a wealthy merchant entered the village. He was searching for someone trustworthy to manage an important trading business. Many people rushed forward, speaking loudly about their talents. They boasted about their intelligence. They argued over who deserved the opportunity. Elias stayed silent. He continued repairing wooden furniture in his workshop. The merchant watched everyone carefully. Finally, he walked toward Elias. Why didn't you compete with the others? He asked. Elias looked up calmly. If my work has value, he replied, it will speak louder than my words. The merchant smiled. For the first time in many years, he had found someone who understood true confidence. He offered Elias the position. News spread throughout the village. Some congratulated him. Others became jealous. One man, in particular, could not accept Elias's success. His name was Victor. Victor had once been Elias's closest friend. They had grown up together. But instead of celebrating Elias's progress, Victor allowed envy to poison his heart. He began telling lies. He claimed Elias had cheated. He whispered false stories to customers. Slowly, rumors spread across the village. Some people believed them. Business began to slow. One evening, Elias returned home to find broken windows and hateful words painted across his door. Anyone else would have exploded in anger. But Elias stood quietly. He closed his eyes. He remembered another lesson from the Stoics. You cannot control what others do. You can only control your response. Instead of seeking revenge, he picked up a broom. He cleaned the broken glass. He painted over the hateful words. Then he returned to work the next morning as if nothing had happened. His neighbors watched in disbelief. Why aren't you angry? One asked. Elias smiled. If I allow another person's hatred to control my emotions, then I become their prisoner. Those words spread through the village faster than the rumors ever had. People began noticing the difference between Victor and Elias. Victor was always shouting, always blaming, always complaining. Elias remained peaceful, focused, disciplined. Eventually, customers returned. Not because of advertisements, not because of discounts, but because they trusted the character of the man behind the work. Months later, the merchant returned. He had heard everything. I've seen many talented people, he said. But talent without emotional control never lasts. Then he handed Elias an even greater opportunity. This time, it would require traveling to distant cities, managing large teams, and making difficult decisions. Elias accepted. Before leaving, he climbed the mountain one last time. The old man was still sitting beneath the same tree. Nothing about him had changed. Elias thanked him. "I thought success would make life easier," Elias admitted. "But every new opportunity brings bigger challenges." The old man nodded. "That is the way of life." Then he pointed toward the mountains. "Do you see those peaks?" "Yes." "The higher you climb, the stronger the wind becomes." He paused. "But remember, the mountain never apologizes for the storm. And the eagle never fears the wind. It uses the wind to rise even higher." Those words stayed with Elias forever. As he walked down the mountain, he realized something extraordinary. Real power does not come from controlling the world. It comes from controlling yourself. The world may become louder. People may become more difficult. Problems may become greater. But your calmness can become stronger than all of them. That is the Stoic way. And that is the path Elias had chosen. End of Part 2. In Part 3, Elias enters a powerful city where betrayal, temptation, and failure threaten everything he has built. The greatest test of his Stoic mindset is about to begin. Calm is power. Part 3. The city that tested everything. Elias stood at the edge of the mountain one final time before beginning his journey. The old village where he had grown up looked small in the distance. The fields where he had worked as a boy seemed peaceful. The roads he once walked every day stretched toward the horizon. He smiled. Not because life had become easy, but because he had become stronger. The old man had taught him that true strength was not measured by muscles, money, or status. It was measured by the ability to remain calm when everything around you was falling apart. With that lesson in his heart, Elias began walking toward the largest city in the kingdom. It took several days to arrive. As he approached the city gates, he was amazed. The streets were alive with merchants shouting for customers. Blacksmiths hammered glowing steel. Children ran through the markets. Musicians filled the air with cheerful songs. Beautiful buildings reached toward the sky. Everything moved quickly. Everyone seemed to be chasing something. Money. Power. Recognition. Fame. Elias quietly observed it all. He remembered another Stoic lesson. A busy life is not always a meaningful life. The wealthy merchant welcomed Elias warmly. "I've been waiting for you," he said. "You've earned a reputation as someone who stays calm under pressure. I need someone exactly like you." The merchant explained that Elias would oversee a growing business with dozens of workers. At first, everything seemed exciting. Every morning, Elias greeted the workers with respect. He listened before speaking. He solved problems instead of creating them. When mistakes happened, he corrected them without shouting. Slowly, the business became more successful than ever. Customers trusted the company. Workers respected their leader. Profits continued to grow. But success often attracts envy. Among the workers was a man named Adrian. He was talented, hardworking, intelligent. But he wanted one thing more than anything else: power. Every day Adrian watched Elias. Why does everyone admire him? He wondered. I'm smarter than he is. I'm stronger than he is. I deserve that position. Instead of improving himself, Adrian became consumed with jealousy. One evening, after everyone had gone home, Adrian secretly altered the company's financial records. The next morning, a large amount of money appeared to be missing. The merchant was furious. He immediately called everyone together. Someone has stolen from this company, he announced. The room fell silent. Then Adrian stepped forward. I think Elias is responsible. The workers gasped. Some couldn't believe what they were hearing. Others began whispering. The accusations spread through the room like fire. Every eye turned toward Elias. He could feel their doubt, their suspicion, their fear. For a brief moment, anger rose inside him. He wanted to defend himself. He wanted to accuse Adrian. He wanted to prove everyone wrong. But then, he took one slow breath. He remembered the mountain. He remembered the cup of water. He remembered the old man's words. Protect your peace. Instead of shouting, Elias calmly spoke. If I am guilty, the truth will reveal it. If I am innocent, the truth will also reveal it. The merchant stared at him. You're not angry? Elias smiled gently. Anger cannot create truth. Only patience can. The investigation lasted several days. Many people expected Elias to panic. Instead, he continued working. He treated everyone with kindness. He refused to gossip. He refused to complain. He refused to seek revenge. Meanwhile, Adrian became increasingly nervous. Every lie required another lie. Every deception created more fear. He stopped sleeping. He became anxious. His own guilt became heavier each day. Finally, one of the accountants discovered hidden records proving that Adrian had changed the numbers. The truth came out. Everyone stood in complete silence. Adrian fell to his knees. I'm sorry, he whispered. I wanted your position. I thought if I destroyed your reputation, everyone would respect me. The merchant looked toward Elias. This man tried to ruin your life. What punishment do you recommend? The entire room waited for Elias to answer. This was his chance. He could demand revenge. He could have Adrian imprisoned. He could humiliate him in front of everyone. Instead, Elias walked toward Adrian. He helped him stand. Then he quietly said, Your greatest punishment has already been your own mind. You've lived in fear every day since you told the first lie. I refuse to carry hatred in my heart. The workers were speechless. The merchant himself lowered his head in respect. Later that evening he asked Elias, How were you able to forgive someone who betrayed you? Elias looked out the window toward the setting sun. Because hatred punishes the person who carries it. If I allow bitterness to live inside me, Adrian wins twice. I choose peace. Those words spread throughout the city. People began traveling long distances simply to meet the man whose calmness could not be shaken. Some expected a great philosopher. Others expected a famous warrior. Instead, they found an ordinary man who had mastered himself. One young visitor asked, What is the secret to becoming fearless? Elias smiled. I am not fearless. I simply refuse to let fear make my decisions. The young man looked confused. But aren't you afraid of failing? Of course. Aren't you afraid of losing everything? Yes. Then why do you remain so calm? Elias answered. Because courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing what is right even when fear is standing beside you. The young man never forgot those words. Years later, he would teach them to others. And the wisdom continued to spread. The lesson is just as true today as it was then. People will criticize you. Some will misunderstand you. Others may even betray you. But never allow another person's actions to steal your inner peace. Calmness gives you the power to think clearly. Clear thinking leads to wise decisions. Wise decisions build a life that cannot easily be shaken. That is why the Stoics believed calmness was one of the greatest strengths a person could ever possess. End of Part 3. In Part 4, Elias faces the greatest loss of his life. A devastating tragedy forces him to choose between despair and the Stoic path, revealing that true power is not shown during easy times, but during life's darkest moments. Part 4. The fire that could not burn his spirit. Months passed, and Elias became known throughout the kingdom as the man who never allowed chaos to control his mind. People admired his wisdom. Merchants trusted his judgment. Young men and women came from distant towns just to ask him one question. How do you stay so calm? Elias always smiled before answering. Calmness is not something you are born with. It is something you practice every single day. Many people believed his life had become easy. They thought success had protected him from suffering. But life has a way of testing every lesson we claim to have learned. And soon, Elias would face the greatest test of his life. One cold autumn evening, dark clouds gathered over the city. A powerful wind swept through the streets. Shop owners hurried to close their doors. Families rushed home before the storm arrived. Lightning flashed across the sky. Then came the rain. It poured harder than anyone had seen in years. As Elias finished his work and prepared to leave, he noticed thick black smoke rising in the distance. At first, he thought it was part of the storm. But then he heard shouting. "Fire! Help! The warehouse is burning!" Elias ran toward the smoke without hesitation. The merchant's largest warehouse was engulfed in flames. Inside were years of hard work, valuable goods, important records, and the savings of many families. People panicked. Some screamed. Others stood frozen, watching everything burn. The merchant fell to his knees. "It's over," he whispered. "We've lost everything." Workers argued with one another. Some blamed the weather. Others blamed the guards. Fear spread through the crowd faster than the fire itself. But Elias stood quietly. He looked at the flames. He knew one truth. Panic had never solved a single problem. He raised his voice, not in anger, but with calm authority. "Listen to me!" Everyone turned. "We cannot save everything. But we can save each other." His words cut through the chaos. Immediately, he divided the workers into small groups. One group carried water. Another helped move supplies that had not yet caught fire. Others escorted frightened families to safety. Because one man remained calm, dozens of others found the courage to act. Hour after hour, they fought the fire. By sunrise, the flames were finally gone. The warehouse was badly damaged. Much had been lost. The merchant stared at the ashes with tears in his eyes. "My life's work. It's gone." Elias placed a hand on his shoulder. "No. The building is gone. But your courage remains. Your experience remains. Your character remains. And as long as those remain, you can build again." The merchant looked at him in silence. For the first time, he realized something important. We often believe our greatest possessions are money, buildings, or success. But the Stoics taught something different. Your greatest possession is your character. Because everything else can disappear overnight. Character cannot. The weeks that followed were difficult. Many workers lost income. Some families struggled. Others became discouraged. Several employees decided to leave the company, believing there was no future left. Every day brought another problem. Another setback. Another disappointment. Even Elias felt exhausted. Late one evening, he returned to the mountain where he had first met the old teacher. The old man was sitting beneath the same tree. As though he had been waiting. Elias sat beside him. For several minutes neither of them spoke. Finally Elias broke the silence. "I stayed calm. I did everything I could. And still, we lost so much." The old man smiled gently. "You are measuring success the wrong way." Elias looked confused. The old man picked up a small acorn lying on the ground. "What do you see?" "A seed." The old man nodded. "If I judge the seed today, I will say it is small. But if I give it time, it becomes a mighty oak." He placed the acorn in Elias's hand. "Life is the same. Never judge today's pain as the end of your story. Many blessings begin as disappointments." Elias remained silent. The old man continued. "Tell me, when the warehouse burned, did you lose your honesty?" "No." "Did you lose your discipline?" "No." "Did you lose your wisdom?" "No." "Did you lose your courage?" Elias shook his head. "No." The old man smiled. "Then you have lost far less than you think." Those words lifted a heavy weight from Elias's heart. He finally understood. The Stoics never promised that life would be easy. They promised something greater. That no matter what happened, you could always choose your response. The next morning, Elias returned to the city with renewed determination. He gathered every worker who had remained. Some looked hopeless. Others looked frightened. Elias stood before them. The fire destroyed our building. But it did not destroy our future. We will rebuild. Not because rebuilding is easy, but because giving up is not who we are. For a moment, no one spoke. Then one worker stepped forward. I'll help. Another followed. So will I. Soon every remaining worker volunteered. Day after day they rebuilt. Brick by brick. Board by board. Not with panic. Not with fear. But with patience. Months later, a new warehouse stood where the ashes had once been. It was stronger. Safer. Better designed. Customers returned. Business grew again. Many people called it a miracle. Elias disagreed. It wasn't a miracle. It was calm minds making wise decisions. And that became another lesson he shared wherever he went. Storms are temporary. Fire is temporary. Failure is temporary. But a disciplined mind can outlast them all. So when life feels like it's falling apart, when your plans fail, when people leave, when the future feels uncertain, remember Elias standing before the flames. He did not waste time asking, "Why me?" he asked. "What can I do next?" That single question changed everything. Because calm is not the absence of problems. Calm is the power to face them without losing yourself. End of Part 4. Calm is power. Part 5. The greatest battle was within. The new warehouse stood proudly against the morning sky. Its walls were stronger. Its foundation was deeper. Its doors were wider than before. People from neighboring towns came to see how a business that had been reduced to ashes had risen again. Many called Elias a remarkable leader. Others called him wise. Some even believed he had become fearless. But Elias knew the truth. He was still an ordinary man. He still felt pain. He still faced uncertainty. He simply chose not to let those feelings control his actions. Yet life had one final lesson waiting for him. One that no amount of success could prevent. One quiet morning, a messenger arrived at the warehouse. His face was pale. His hands trembled as he held out a letter. Elias opened it slowly. The message came from his home village. The old teacher, the man who had changed his life beneath the mountain tree, had fallen seriously ill. Without hesitation, Elias packed his belongings and began the journey home. As he walked the familiar mountain paths, memories filled his mind. He remembered carrying the cup of water. He remembered the lessons about patience, discipline, and peace. He remembered every conversation that had shaped the man he had become. When he reached the tree, the old teacher was sitting beneath it, just as he always had. But now his hair was completely white. His breathing was slow. His body had grown weak. Yet his eyes still shone with quiet wisdom. Elias knelt beside him. "I came as quickly as I could." The old man smiled. "I knew you would." For a while they sat in silence, watching the wind move through the trees. Finally, the old teacher spoke. "Do you remember the first day we met?" Elias laughed softly. "I was angry at the world. And now? I'm learning not to be." The old teacher nodded. "Good." Then he asked, "What is the greatest lesson Stoicism has taught you?" Elias thought carefully before answering. "That I cannot control life. But I can always control my character." The old teacher smiled with pride. "You have learned well." As the sun began to set, the old man reached into a small leather bag beside him. He removed a simple wooden ring. It was old and worn smooth by time. "I have carried this for many years," he said. "Whenever life became difficult, I looked at it and remembered that nothing lasts forever." He placed the ring into Elias's hand. "Now it belongs to you." Elias felt tears forming in his eyes. "I don't want to lose you." The old teacher gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were never meant to keep me forever. No one owns tomorrow. We only borrow today." Those words were difficult to hear. For the first time in many years, Elias felt helpless. He wanted to stop time. He wanted one more lesson. One more conversation. One more sunrise together. But deep inside, he knew the Stoic truth. Everything in nature has its season. The leaves fall. The rivers flow. The stars fade with dawn. And every human life eventually reaches its final chapter. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight touched the mountain, the old teacher quietly took his final breath. The forest became completely still. Elias bowed his head. He did not cry out in anger. He did not curse fate. He simply sat beside the tree in silence. Tears rolled down his face. Because Stoicism never teaches us to stop feeling. It teaches us to feel without losing ourselves. For several days, Elias remained on the mountain. He reflected on every lesson he had learned. Then he stood beneath the same tree where everything had begun. He looked toward the village below. Children were laughing. Farmers were working. Birds filled the sky. Life continued. In that moment, Elias understood something profound. The greatest way to honor someone is not by remaining trapped in grief. It is by living the values they taught you. So he returned to the city. When people asked where his teacher had gone, Elias simply smiled. He still teaches me. Every calm decision I make carries his wisdom. Years passed. Elias became a teacher himself. Young people traveled from every corner of the kingdom to learn from him. One day, a frightened young man approached. My life is falling apart, he said. I've lost my job. My friends have abandoned me. I don't know what to do. Elias handed him the same wooden ring. Hold this. The young man looked confused. It reminds us that every storm passes. If you remain calm, you will see possibilities that panic hides. The young man took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, hope returned to his eyes. As the years went by, Elias realized something remarkable. His teacher had never truly left. Every lesson lived on through the people who practiced it. Every act of patience. Every moment of self-control. Every calm response to chaos. The wisdom continued to spread from one generation to the next. One evening, Elias climbed the mountain again. He sat beneath the old tree. The same wind touched his face. The same birds sang overhead. He smiled. Not because life had been perfect, but because every challenge had made him stronger. He looked toward the horizon and quietly whispered, "Thank you." Then he stood, turned toward the path leading home, and walked forward with steady steps. He knew there would be more challenges, more disappointments, more storms. But he also knew something greater. Calmness is not something you find once. It is something you choose every single day. And that choice has the power to change your life. So whenever life feels overwhelming, remember Elias. Remember the mountain. Remember the cup of water. Remember the fire. Remember the wooden ring. Most of all, remember this simple truth. Calm is power. Not because it removes life's difficulties, but because it gives you the strength to face them with wisdom, courage, and peace. End of Part 5.